saying congratulations on the album. It is an absolutely fantastic album. So I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about what you guys were setting out to achieve with this album.
Yeah, sure. It's something that, in a way, it came together quickly, but in another way, it's been many years in gestation, because Nick and I have been friends for a long time. We both used to be in bands on the Summershine label. I was in the Sugar Gliders and the Steinbecks, and Nick was in the Earthmen and Blindside. And we used to play gigs together and went on tour together. And often Nick and I would say to each other, hey, we should do something together sometime, write some songs. And it never happened, and I thought it was just nice talk. But about a year ago, Nick said, come to my place on such and such a date, and we're going to start writing songs together. And so we did, and it was, in a way, we didn't know what we wanted to achieve at first, but as we went along, it became clear that we've brought with us years of life experience, and we wanted to throw it together and see what came out. And it's been a really beautiful experience for me to connect with Nick in a really deep way, which you have to do when you're writing songs together, and, you know, sharing a part of you that's not usually shared.
Yeah.
So, that was, we didn't set out with a grand plan, but I think what's come out has got a focus to it.
And what kind of things were influencing you guys while you were writing? Because the tracks are so very varied. There's some really deep personal tracks on there, but what kind of things were inspiring you while you were writing the lyrics, especially?
I think, being, Nick and I have been in relationships, have, some long-lasting relationships, others not so long-lasting, and so we're reflecting on what it is to be human and to connect with other people over a long period of time, with all the failings and pitfalls that come with sharing your life with someone. So I guess that's been the place that a lot of the songs have emerged from.
Yeah.
And I guess, that's probably the best I can answer to that.
Yeah, we've been playing the track Disappointment Town on our show. Tell us a little bit about what that track was based on, because I understand that came out of one of your first writing sessions.
Yeah, it's this is something that I've always been a little bit repulsed by duets because they can be so cheesy and so corny, but I've also been strangely attracted to them, and when they're done well, they're just irresistible. Thinking of things like the Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra duets, and even Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, and
yeah,
there's so many duets that are really memorable, and so I've always wanted to have a crack at writing a duet, and the theme of the song, which is really about recognizing that in a relationship you can be disappointed, and there can be bumps and hiccups, but that's not the end of the story if there is also commitment and humour and an ability to forgive and to make a fresh start. And so I started off with the thought that I wanted to take the perspective of someone who's disappointed, and also then to hear the perspective of the one who's hearing that disappointment. And it was Nick thought it was rather hilarious that I wanted to write a song about disappointment as the first cab off the rank, but I think what we've come up with has been good, and then it was an absolute joy to think about, because it's very much a male and female duet, and Nick's voice seemed to be the perfect male voice for it, and we thought, who would we like to have as the female voice? And both of us thought of Kelly Day from the Melbourne band Broads, who's got a beautiful, smoky, slightly world-weary sort of voice, and thought it would be absolutely ideal for this. And we asked her, and she said yes, so that was great.
You did bring some brilliant musicians in to work on this. I know Jenny Thomas on violin, Adam Simmons on sax. How did you go about putting together such a great, I guess, group of musicians to work with?
Well, I really have to praise Nick for this, because Nick is a sound engineer, and he's played in lots of bands. He's produced bands in his own studio, and he just knows a lot of people, a lot of musicians in Melbourne. And fortunately, Nick was able to tap a few people on the shoulder and ask if they'd be interested in helping out. And yeah, we've been really fortunate that there's some extremely talented musicians who've contributed to this album.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you talked about the fact before that you and Nick had been talking about doing this for a long time. What was it about Nick that made you want to record music with him? Was there something about him that just made you want to record with him?
Well, when I think back to when the Earthmen were a really cracking live proposition, I used to see them playing live. Nick was the lanky, red-headed lead guitarist who was just the coolest guy in the room, and was an absolutely brilliant guitar player. So I was always attracted to those qualities. I came more from a sensitive pop duo and trio, and the thought of marrying the rock dog with the sensitive poet seemed like it just seemed like a really great marriage that we wanted to try out. So yeah, I was always attracted to Nick's coolness, to his great musicianship, and yeah, that was the thing that I thought might work.
Yeah. Now the name, the Bell Streets, for some reason it just comes across as an iconic Melbourne name because of Bell Street. Is that where the name actually came from?
Yeah, Bell Street, it's sort of like a bit of a dividing line in Melbourne, and that a lot of people feel like it's cool south of Bell Street and it's a bit wilder north of Bell Street, or that you can't afford to buy a house or even probably to rent on the wrong side of Bell Street. So it's like a dividing line, and we wanted to pick a name that would be something that would straddle different worlds, and not just be putting in one camp or the other camp. The other thing is that Nick actually lives on Bell Street, so in some ways it was a little bit of a cop out to just choose a name like that.
Yeah. Now, we're all in lockdown at the moment. How are you guys spending lockdown, and how does it affect the album coming out while we're in lockdown, or is it actually a benefit because there's more people at home to stay and listen to it?
That's interesting, isn't it? We had been planning to launch the album and do live shows in the first weekend of May, and of course that's all off. And we sat down when it was apparent that the gigs were going to be cancelled and everyone was going to be in isolation. We sat down and thought, do we put off this whole thing and try to just sit on the album until we know we can go out and promote it? And we thought, no, let's do it. And we're, like you say, we're hoping that people will have the time to explore things on the internet and on the radio, and to hear new songs and buy some records that way. So that's what we've gone with. I am really hopeful that we will one day get to play the songs live, because I feel like that's a really good context for it, and the preliminary rehearsals that we had were sounding really terrific. So hopefully we can do that down the track.
Definitely. Well, Josh, I think we're going to play Disappointment Town once again, but before we do, is there anything you would like to say to our listeners out there before they go out and grab a copy of the album?
Oh, thanks for your interest, and people can find the Bell Streets on Bandcamp, and we're on all the socials as well, and really appreciate the support of you, David, and other programs like it.
Not a problem, mate. Again, congratulations on such a fantastic album, and hopefully we can have you on again in the not-too-distant future talking about some shows that you're doing as well.
That sounds great. Thank you.